In and around Whitehall are the offices from which Britain's fighting services have been directed for centuries. Almost opposite the War Office is the Admiralty, and new buildings, like this one at Earl's Court, London, have gone up to house the expanding staffs. But here is one that symbolises a new regime, in which all three services have been brought under one umbrella, under the control of the new Ministry of Defence, which has its main headquarters back in Whitehall in a building irreverently known as the Quadrigon. The Air Council used to meet here in the days when the Royal Air Force was completely independent. Now the Council meets for the last time under the last Secretary of State for Air. At his side is the Chief of the Air Staff. Further up Whitehall, the generals and high civil servants gather for the last meeting of the Army Council. With them are the political chiefs, the parliamentary undersecretary, and the last Secretary of State for War. In this building, which has known so many life and death decisions through 2 world wars, the curtain is rung down on a completely independent army. By far the oldest service building is the Admiralty. And now, after nearly 250 years in this place, the men who run the Royal Navy meet with full powers for the last time. The First Lord of the Admiralty, Lord Jellicoe, son of the famous Admiral of the First World War, presides. In this room, with its historic wind vane and the priceless carvings attributed to the master craftsman Grinling Gibbons, Winston Churchill presided over the Board of Admiralty in 2 world wars, in which air power rose to challenge naval supremacy, a supremacy on which Britain's defence had been based long before the days of Nelson. Now comes a final ceremonial. Outside on Horse Guards Parade, the band of the Royal Marines strikes up. And at sunset, on March the 31st, 1964, the flag of Britain's Lord High Admiral for more than 300 years is struck for the last time. This office had been vested in the Lords Commissioners of the Admiralty, and the flag had been flown over the Admiralty building and at sea whenever their lordships were afloat. Now it has reverted to the Crown. In future, the flag of the Lord High Admiral will be flown only by the Queen when she is at sea on naval occasions or visiting naval establishments ashore. It's the end of an era of independent sea power, and some of the glory departs as the historic Admiralty is absorbed into the Ministry of Defence to get a new and less glamorous name. And so today, in the age of unified command, the new Defence Council settles the policy for all the fighting services. Meeting under the Secretary of State for Defence, the Council includes the ministers, as they are now called, of the 3 service departments. With them are the service chiefs. There too are Sir Solly Zuckerman, Chief Scientific Advisor, and Earl Mountbatten, Chief of the Defence Staff. Britain has many commitments throughout the world. In the same 12 months, her forces were helping to keep the peace in places as far distant as Borneo and Cyprus, Southern Arabia and Africa, and British Guiana. Trouble can arise anywhere at short notice. When it does, the Defence Council considers what can be done. But the men who decide how it shall be done are the Chiefs of Staff, who meet regularly with Earl Mountbatten in the chair. On these screens, maps and diagrams can be projected, and as they look at them, the generals, admirals and air marshals must sometimes think of the days of the Second World War. It was then that the commando raids on enemy-occupied territory, and later the bigger combined operations against hostile coasts, really laid the foundations of a close working together of the Army, Navy and Air Force. Names such as Vauxhall and Malloy, Boulogne and Saint-Nazaire are reminders of the success of a new military technique, as well as of deeds of courage and daring. During some of its most vital tasks, the Chief of Combined Operations was the man who now heads the service chiefs and has seen the dream of a unified command come true.
This is the room in the new unified Ministry of Defence in which the Chiefs of Staff meet to discuss all military problems. It is from here that we issue orders to our unified commanders. Practically all the operations we're called upon to undertake nowadays take the form of combined operations in which all three services play their part.
Today, Aden, with its hinterland of bleak mountains and desert, is one of the areas in which Unified Command is actively working. Here at the headquarters of Middle East Command, you won't find sailors driving tanks or air crews diving submarines, but you will find men and women of the three services working closely together and getting to understand each other's problems. On a higher level, they work side by side. An officer's success today depends on his ability to work with the other services as well as his own. An Army officer carrying dispatches lands on board HMS Gurkha. Whether this incident is domestic or operational, all three services are involved, and it's now a matter of normal routine. Army and Navy officers watch hunters testing the ship's radar interception efficiency. Again, three services, one objective. The three services remain separate and distinct. There's no intention of merging them. But under the new setup, they march closely together in an age in which the idea of service rivalries is as out of date as the bow and arrow.